So Belgian French tradition, what can we learn from the culture, history, and geography? We're talking about expressive ales, big time expressive ales, plus sour and wild beers. Look for complexity. Complexity isn't a positive or a negative. It just means lots of different stuff going on in the beers. Dry, high attenuation. The beers are dry at the end, and they're highly attenuated. That creates something Belgians pride themselves on called digestibility. That's their term for drinkability. It means you can drink a lot of the beer and it doesn't fill you up. They want high ABV beers, but the easiest way of making a high ABV beer is adding a whole lot of malt to it, right? Because malt is the sugar source, and then the sugar gets fermented into alcohol. However, that will make a beer that has a lot of body in it and a lot of richness to it. So they will chaptalize their beers. We'll get into chaptalization in a bit. But that creates digestibility with lots of fermentation flavor. Perceived sweetness is often kind of high. It's way higher than the actual sweetness, though. Yeah, good timing, Kenny. Perceived bitterness is lower than the actual. Okay, so we're talking about beers that are actually dry and actually kind of bitter, but they don't taste like it. They taste low in bitterness and high in sweetness. It's really interesting. Lots of fruit, spice, earthiness, and fusel alcohols from the fermentations. We're talking about complex ale yeasts, expressive ale yeasts that create lots of esters or fruity flavors, phenols or spicy flavors, phenols that are earthy, and then fusel alcohols that add kind of perfumey, floral notes, sometimes hot alcohol notes as well. Fruit condition ranges from underripe to ripe to jammy to candied to confection. So remember, fruit condition, we're talking about whether that banana's green or brown, or candied or whatever. So the fruit condition is really all over the map. Highly carbonated and often bottle conditioned. Why are they bottle conditioned? Because they want lots of flavor from their yeast. Their yeast is what creates so much of the flavor. They want that yeast to get a last shot at making more flavor in the bottle. Why is it highly carbonated? It's not highly carbonated because it's bottle conditioned. A lot of people think bottle conditioned means highly carbonated. You can bottle a lot of English ales or cask ales. They're conditioned in the vessel they're poured from, but they're not highly carbonated. The reason why these are highly carbonated is because they've got so much aroma in the beer. The brewers are proud of that. They want to push that in your face every time you take a sip. So if it's fruity, opposite of the German stuff, if it's fruity, look for more than banana. If there's no fruit complexity just beyond banana, it's probably German. All right, Belgian has banana, but also lots of other fruits going on, other fruit families. And if it's sour, look for more than lactic. If there's no earthy, barney, Brettanomyces funk or whatever, then it's probably German. If there's lots of other stuff going on there, a lot of earthiness and barnyard, it's probably Belgian. Why is this? Belgium is close to the ocean. It also has rarely super cold weather. The closer you are to the coast, generally the water has a mediating effect on temperature swings and crazy weather. So it'll make it so that you're not going to have a perfect place to brew cold lagers, but it's good for yeasts that produce a lot of flavor. And it's good for adding spices to those beers because the spices are not too expensive. They're being imported right through your own ports. And then it's not fantastic for growing hops either. So Belgian beers don't have a lot of hop character to them. They have plenty of bitterness, but not a ton of hop aroma. And then political and cultural history led to personality and artistic expression and idiosyncrasies, things like outdated, inefficient, but flavorful brewing methods. Less of an in-common expectation of what beer styles should taste like. It doesn't have mountains or cold caves or freezing weather, so the beers often were soured or sometimes preserved with high alcohol. Alcohol is a way of fighting some sourness. And then Burgundian influences, sweet savory, are commonly in the same dish in Belgium, and that makes it nice. It pairs really nicely with a lot of beers that have both sweet and savory components. The wine tradition of Burgundy parallels Belgian beer brewing tradition. So a lot of oak aging, blending of different barrels, acidity is often present, fruity flavor. Lambics, there's no end to how complex they are. And we're not going to dive into every single bit of complexity about them, but they are nutso complex. And they haven't really changed much of the brewing process or their flavor profile in over 500 years. It's made with raw wheat. It's not made with raw meat, it's made with raw wheat, and that means it's unmalted. It also is brewed with aged hops, which sounds weird, but if you age them for 2, 3, 4 years, that means the hops that no longer have any hop aroma, and they no longer have any hop bitterness either. So why would you add hops? You're adding them for the beta acids, which are antibacterial. You're going to have a wild beer that's going to have a lot of bacteria in it, but if you didn't have any of that, the beta acids from those hops, it would be too wild. It'd be too crazy, too potentially stinky, vegetal, barnyardy. It's cooled overnight in a cool ship, which is to say when the wort is finished being boiled, it's poured in a cool ship that cools down slowly, and they open up the windows and let the breezes help cool down this stuff. In the process, they're getting a lot of bacteria and yeast from the air into that wort. It's inoculated with yeast and bacteria blown in on the air, living in the brewery